the honor of being with the Honorable Craig M. Washington.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to meet you.
It's very, very good to meet you too, Your Honor. You have been on the municipal court bench in Philadelphia for how long now?
I believe it's 26 years.
26 years.
Yes.
So I'd like to talk to you a little bit today about how you got here.
Sure.
Where did you grow up?
Germantown, Philadelphia.
And did you go to public schools?
Yes.
Where did you go?
I started at elementary school at Upsall and Chew. I'm trying to recall the name of it, but when the 1950 desegregation decision came down, we were moved over to Charles W. Henry School.
Yes.
And I think it's Emlyn.
That's
is the
where it
school
is.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
And so after that, I went to Roosevelt Junior High School,
Mm-hmm.
and then after that to Germantown High School, where I graduated in 1968.
Okay. Was there anything about your experience or were there any teachers, let's say, in your high school that tried to encourage you to go to law school, or how'd you come up with the idea?
No, not that I recall. People discouraged me from saying, but as a young person, I must admit, I was impressed with a TV celebrity of a lawyer.
Which
and
one
we
was
all
it?
watched that. I'm trying to recall his name, Perry Mason.
Perry Mason.
And people say, no, don't say that. But it's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's the image that was out there. And it wasn't until really college that I even considered law school. But I always liked history. And at Germantown, I did pretty good in history.
Mm-hmm.
Not in too many other subjects, but at least in history. And later on in undergrad, I took a real liking to history. And I attended Virginia Union University
Mm-hmm.
in Richmond, Virginia first, and then a year and a half, then my last 2 years was at Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
So there I was a secondary education major with, I believe, a history minor.
And did you take any pre-law classes when you were at
Central.
Central?
Yeah. In my senior year, we were on half semesters then, only 2 semesters a year. The second half, we call it the spring semester. I decided to take an internship in law.
Mm.
And there was a very well-known black attorney in Xenia, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already applying as a candidate for a doctoral program with Ford Foundation Fellowship. I think my wife and I, she became my wife, both were doing that for Ohio State Graduate School. But for some reason I said I want to try this internship. I probably just needed to get some credits so I could graduate.
Uh-huh.
And then I liked it so much that I then applied rather late to law school. And surprisingly, during the summer months, I was accepted to Temple Law School.
Another Temple Law School grad.
Yes, yes.
And
so that was it. Then I became more and more interested in law because the civil rights movement, and I graduated undergrad in '72, was still very active.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt I wanted to do something more than just teach history or share that information, but to have an active role in things. So I think that's what happened.
What were things like on the campus? Were you managing activism and also your studies, or what was that like?
Well, there's a lot going on campus. In Virginia, I started at Union in January of '69, and I left there in June of '70, and sometime, I think closer to June, the Black Panther Party came to campus.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going around to campuses, HBCUs, at that time mostly, and making their pitch.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and heard them speak once down in Virginia. And I didn't jump, I didn't join,
Right.
none of that, but I think it started having a subtle effect on me.
Yeah.
And I remember that. And then at Central, I forgot to mention to you that in my senior year, I think, I became a member of the Student Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And someone asked me to be involved in it. It was more of a political selection because there was a lot of politics on campus, and the students were permitted to do, I guess, the initial level of applying school code,
Mm-hmm.
regulations,
Mm-hmm.
and I was chosen, and I participated. So there again was this involvement in the law issue.
So that's where you got good at judging the first time. Is that?
Well, I would like to think that, but I don't know. But it was a good experience because you had to try to be a little more neutral
Yes.
when issues were brought before the council. So that's about the extent. But it wasn't much more than that until I knew I wanted to do something after undergrad. I wasn't sure what. So as a young person, you just kind of try things.
And when you got to Temple, were you doing any? Was there anything you were able to do aside from study? Were you doing any activism or advocacy when you were at law school?
I tried. I soon regretted that. Graduated, I believe, from Central State in May or June.
Mm-hmm.
Got married in August, a couple months later, and started law school at the end of August.
Oh, wow.
So we were supposed to have a honeymoon in Nigeria because my wife had won a motherland contest on Central State's campus.
Wow.
The Africans had arranged it for us,
Mm-hmm.
and something happened. It fell through.
Oh, no.
So we didn't have much of a honeymoon, went right to law school, and I think I thought I could approach law school like I did undergrad. And I graduated magna something,
Mm-hmm.
all right, and so did she. We had plenty of time for all the activities,
Right.
the coming and goings. We went to Cincinnati, we were a lot over at Yellow Springs,
Mm-hmm.
Antioch.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of political activity over there, cultural activity. I think either Martin Luther King's, one of his children were there, someone was there, notably, and we had time for that. I tried that in my first semester law school,
Ooh.
and that's not a wise thing to do.
Law school is all-encompassing,
Yes.
especially that first semester.
Yes. So, but we kept our ears, if not our feet, involved in what was going on, because it was important.
Yes.
It was really important. Matter of fact, my wife continued on, and she even made a trip to Cuba at a time that you weren't necessarily supposed to.
But it was probably listed as an educational trip, yes?
It was,
Yeah.
yes. It was wonderful. So, and I stayed home and took care of our daughter while she was gone.
Wow.
So we kept doing that as much as we could in a better balance. I had to devote a lot more time to the studies.
Yes. How was it balancing family
Yes.
with law school?
Unfortunately, family probably came into a close second. It was unfortunate.
Yeah.
And my wife and I have been married 52 years, so we think back now, and it must have been a real challenge for her because she wasn't in law school. She was working. She was a teacher. She got a position, and she pretty much supported me, us, and when the first daughter came in my second year of law school, she did that. And it was a real challenge. I just thank God we made it through. Yeah. I really do. I'm very appreciative.
It's great to hear that, you know how you made it through.
Yes, yes, exactly.
What was your first job out of law school?
Community legal services.
I think I read that.
Yeah.
And are you bilingual as well?
No.
Okay.
She was more than I was
Okay.
because while I was in law school, she was working at a bilingual center
Okay.
at the Franklin Learning Center in its early years. Had a great program there, bilingual program. So I picked up a lot from her, and she picked up a lot from them. But no, the former councilman Angel Ortiz became the managing attorney there out of New York. And he came down with Nelson Diaz about the same time. Nelson Diaz was one of our mentors. At Temple, he had just graduated. Carl Singley had just graduated. Maybe Ernie Jones had just graduated from Temple, and they mentored us.
That's quite a deep bench of mentors.
Yes, yes, yes.
What were you doing for community legal services? What kind of work?
I went into civil practice primarily. I think in the beginning at 7th and Girard, I started pretty much in the landlord-tenant area, and then later became a supervising attorney for the consumer protection issues, mostly there. That's what I did. And then I was transferred to Broadneary office, where same type of practice, just excellent practice. Learned a lot about civil practice, and I was about 6 years there.
And after that, what was your path?
Well, I felt I needed to get more training because I thought I wanted to be a trial lawyer. So more training in trial practice. Legal service was great for civil practice, document practice, those type of things you need to know. So I decided, where can I get that type of practice? Well, it starts usually at the public defender's office, or the district attorney's office, or the city solicitor's office, maybe the attorney general office you can apply. And as opposed to a law firm, I really had no desire to work in a firm environment. So I said, let me see how the other half of the world functions. So I left legal services representing low-income, poor clients, and found a job with the district attorney's office with then DA Ed Rendell in his second term. I was there about 4 years.
Which unit?
Well, you start. There's a method to the madness there. You start out in the MC unit, and you usually spend a number of months there, and then you rotate off to the juvenile unit, and you get a taste of that and an understanding of that. And then after that, you usually come back to the Court of Common Pleas waiver unit. Those are non-jury criminal cases for felony charges. And if you continue on and do well enough, you'll be moved to the jury unit. It can be civil or criminal in Court of Common Pleas.
Okay. Knowing what you know now after the number of years that you've been a judge, what would you, well, I'll ask you that later. What would your advice be to young attorneys?
Well, it's multifaceted because the way the practice is so different now. I was indicating earlier that you didn't have cell phones when I started. You were doing pretty good if you had a pager, and people could reach you, and you run to a phone to return a call. But now the technology is such, law practice is so much dependent on that, you must have that background. And while you're getting your substantive training in whatever area you want, keep that always as your minor, so you can do that. And so I would encourage that they would do that. It's important to think about income, but the long run, it's more important to be maybe one of your compassions or love of life in an area of law, so that you won't have a tendency to be distracted from the requirements of law. And it can be stringent at times. It really can be, and even more so for judges.
How did you manage, had you mastered your stress when you were a young lawyer, or did that take a long time to develop those skills?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd like to ask other people like my wife and children how I did that, but I tried to have a golden rule that I would not go into the office on weekends. You couldn't do that at a firm. You're lucky if you get a weekend off a month. So I did that. When we did holidays or travel, I would let them know I may have to carry some work with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been on the airplane reading things, or they even tease me now about being on the beach reading something. But I try to keep that type of balance and make sure I got in and make sure I had as much family time
Mm-hmm.
and children time and, of course, wife time as I could. It was important. And then church came into being.
You
And
hold
then-
you're an officer.
Yes,
in
I'm a
church.
deacon at the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had those responsibilities in addition to the others to balance.
Well, that came a little later.
Okay.
Not always, like a lot of young people around the early teens, I just stopped going to church.
Yeah.
I grew up in Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church
Mm-hmm.
when it was on Coulter Street.
Yep.
Before they built the church on Cheltenham.
Mm-hmm.
And very active in the church. And my mother was. My father was when he wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And started coming back to that after marriage and after having children.
Your parents, did your parents, were they interested in the law or how?
Well, my mother was interested in nursing.
Okay.
She died at the age of 98. She's from Scottsville, Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
But she was unable, a true case of unable to go further after high school because of no funds.
Mm-hmm.
And my father graduated high school. I think he attended Tuskegee for a year, and I believe he got drafted into World War II. I know he did attend, and he came back, he made it back, he went overseas, and they married and had a family. So he did not return to college. She didn't make it to nursing. They started having children. It was 5 of us, and she worked when she wasn't caring for one of us.
And they hopefully both got to see you
Yes.
practice law. I know
Yes,
your mother
yes,
did.
yes. Yes, they were
But
very excited about that.
Yes, I'm sure they were very proud.
They helped a great deal. They're very proud of that.
Yeah.
And made up for all the other stuff I put them through.
That's kind of the job of a child.
Yeah.
You have how many children?
2.
2. Did either of them follow in your footsteps?
No.
Yeah.
My daughter, who's the oldest, followed in the footsteps of Jean, my wife, and became a teacher, and she's an assistant principal now. West Philadelphia School, public school. Jean is retired. She did 35 years as a teacher and retired about 15 years ago.
Wow,
Yeah, so,
that's great.
And my son, he has an eye for film. And they encourage him to go this school in New York. I used to know the name of it. And he met some filmmakers, and he took film courses at Roxborough High School. And then he just told us one day, it takes too long to make money being a filmmaker. He was
Yeah.
very succinct about that, and so I didn't push it.
Mm-hmm.
He did some camera work, and he then went into college. I'm glad he did that. I'm trying to recall his major, but after graduation, he went into the business field. And he was trained at Enterprise Car Rental, and the way they train people there, management staff, he has gotten offers and offers after that, and he's now selling technology equipment at somewhere in Center City here, and he's doing very well, and he's happy with that and has no regrets, and he's
Good.
married with a son.
Good. Sounds
Yeah.
like you did well.
Yes.
When you told me when you ascended to the bench, what year was that?
97, I won the election, so I started in January of 98.
Did you notice from 1998 until present, what is your, well, I'll ask another question. What is your crowning achievement? What's the thing that you're most proud of in your legal career on the bench?
It's hard to say. I don't see an outstanding career. I hope it's that people regard me as a fair
Mhm.
and honest judge.
Mhm.
They may have some other descriptions and titles,
Mhm.
but hopefully those two. And I work hard to do that, to maintain it. Hasn't always been easy. For natural human tendencies just to not want to keep working hard, and not always wanting to be fair, but to do what you want to do in a situation. When a judge, you really can't do that. You're not supposed to do that.
Always wanted to ask a judge, how is there a discipline or a practice that you keep that reminds you of that requirement on a daily basis? Because it's got to be a moment.
Yeah.
I mean, it's for me. I would imagine it would be a moment to moment struggle sometimes.
Yes, it's almost day to day, if not week to week.
Yeah.
It's just remembering how you got here, the people that worked hard to get you here, that really have no direct benefit from all that I'm benefiting from, and the amount of disappointment that they would have when something comes out, shows up, or happens that indicates that you haven't kept the banner up, the bar up, kept your chin up the whole time. So I don't want to disappoint people, whether it be family, the work that the wife did while I was in law school, the sacrifice she made, and the kids. You just don't want to disappoint people. And the system needs to be kept as well as it can be kept, because a lot of people come through it, are exposed to it, and need it. They really need it. So I try to remember that all these years, and try not to worry too much about the money factor. Initially, yes, very ambitious in that regard, but then sometimes you get out of directions and signals in life, and you have to follow it.
Are you involved with mentoring young lawyers now, or younger
Yes.
judges?
I try to, young lawyers, I try to have maybe an intern or two a year, and maybe the last 10 years. As I slow down, I need some folks to help me keep up. So as you have your staff, but they have their responsibility and time. It's nice having someone else around that wants to be there, ambitious, energetic, and willing to learn. And so I try to do that. This is probably the first year that I haven't had an intern in addition to staff with me, because I am slowing down.
Do you have anything that you want to do as you slow down your legal career as a judge? Is there something that you've always wanted to do that you have on the horizon?
Yes, I felt a need that I need to spend more time with my diaconate, my deacon obligations and duties. I'm only a part-timer now, and it's not a calling for a part-time shit, it's a full-time calling. So I've been doing this long enough. I'm so thankful that I've been able to do it. I've done the best I could. I think I should be about others, about the master's business now.
Well, you've lived a life of service in a number of ways. This is just a focus on a different way to serve.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I look forward to having that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, Judge
Thank
Washington. I thank you for sitting down to speak with me.
Thank you very
Lovely
much
to
for
meet
having
you.
me. It was a pleasure meeting you as well. Thank you.